What's new from the Barbados Light and Power Company with your host, Jackie Marshall Clark.
Welcome to part 2 of this special Roundtable edition of What's New Radio. I'm Jackie Marshall Clark. Glad you could join me. The topic for discussion is Light and Power's application with the Fair Trading Commission, the FTC, for a review of electricity rates. In part 1, we highlighted the reasons for a rate adjustment at this time and an explanation of the impact of rising international oil prices on components of your electricity bill. We also discussed Light and Power's recent application to the FTC for an interim rate relief, which would enable Light and Power to recover increasing production, distribution, and administrative costs, as well as network investment costs required to support reliability levels while transitioning to 100% renewable energy generation. In part 2, we'll hear about customer-focused investments, the clean energy bridge at Trent St. Lucie, and the current status of the rate application. The guests around the table are Roger Blackman, Managing Director of Light and Power, Kim Griffith Tang Howe, Director Customer Solutions, and Adrian Carter, Manager Regulatory Affairs. The moderator is Shane Jones.
Back to you now, Kim. I know one of the things that has been coming through all throughout this process is that Light and Power has tried to hold the hands of its customers along the way throughout the years to try to protect them as long as possible. You oversee customer solutions for the company. What I want to know from you is a general overview of the type of customer-focused investment the Light and Power has invested in and how it benefits the customers, because it may not be enough to just say, we've held your hand, we've shielded you from any increase for as long as possible. I want the details. What have you done?
Okay, so you're right. Over the years, we've continuously upgraded our systems and made very customer-centric investments. And I think more recently we discussed we've invested over $774 million since the last rate case on a number of customer initiatives. The construction of the Clean Energy Bridge, which is our newest plan at Trent St. Lucie. That, for instance, is $130 million. We've also invested in distribution automation switches or smart switches for the distribution network, which allows automatic detection and isolation of faults. What this does is it helps us to minimize outage times for customers. So that's another investment that we've made as well. We've also made significant investments in what we call grid modernization initiatives. So we've invested in a geographic information system, which allows us to map and have sight of all of our assets out in the field and gives us access to a lot more data about those assets. That's important because what that helps us to do as well, not only have sight of the assets, but be proactive in understanding when those assets might have been installed, when they need to be maintained, and maybe even timely in changing out or updating those assets before they fail. And that also ensures that we could provide, a more efficient service to customers. Something that you might have heard a lot about, Jane, is we also invested in an advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, and this is where we installed over 135,000 smart meters across the island. The meters are coupled with a communication infrastructure or system, and that supports the whole system. And these new smart meters, you could say they talk to each other, really. And what they do is that they send back information about the customer's usage to us. And what it's enabled us to do is allowed us to move away. I think this is one of the neatest features that people appreciate. Is allowed us to move away from issuing interim bills to customers. People didn't really like that. And we used to read the meters every other month. But now we have a system where we get more real-time usage for customers. And so they effectively get a red bill every month rather than every other month. And people really like that. The other neat thing about these meters also is that eventually it allows us to offer meter and billing data as a complementary value-added service to customers. And what we've done is we've set up a customer portal. And through that customer portal, people will be able to go in and get a lot more information about their usage. And of course, once you understand about your usage, that's where you could change your usage patterns, maybe conserve more, and in doing so, save energy. But the other thing about the customer portal, and really where I thought it showed a lot of benefit, is as we worked through the pandemic and we had to change the way we were doing business and serving customers, a lot of it had to be done virtually or remotely. What the customer portal did is it allowed the company to fast track many initiatives using this online platform and, take customer queries, allow for new service transactions and other online services that we were able to offer via the portal. And so really at this stage, what we're doing is we're upgrading the portal to ensure that it has wider capabilities to serve our customers. The other thing I think is really important as we talk about savings for customers, particularly fuel savings. We also invested in first utility scale solar farm in the Eastern Caribbean, and that is our 10 megawatt solar farm located at Trent. And we also invested in first ever utility scale battery as well. So we have a 5 megawatt battery also at Trent.
Roger, you're the man at the top, so you got to get the harder questions. Kim spoke about several investments, but one of the things that has been said is that Light and Power didn't follow through. That's what we're hearing, that it didn't follow through with your commitments in 2010 to retire the steam plant. How do you respond to that, Roger?
Yes, we have modified investment plans from time to time where we felt it prudent to do so, based largely on change in national policies and the thrust to renewable energy, as well as other independently planned generation projects over that period. For example, we did extend the life of the steam plant in 2012 rather than build a new fossil fuel plant at that time that ran the risk of being stranded, given all of the plans and policies that were being put in place at the time. The decision to pause on that was a responsible one, as we had to consider the government's plan to introduce 60 megawatts of combined waste to energy and biomass generation between 2016 and 2018. Those announcements from government, coupled with proposed changes to the licensing regime that government was proposing, low sales growth, a new Electric Light and Power Act, anticipated reforms to the electricity market structure, all of those things we had to take into consideration, and they all created uncertainty in the energy sector, in the energy space. So as a result, the company felt it prudent to delay investments in new fossil fuel plant at that time and extend the life of the steam plant to avoid the possibility of any new fossil fuel plant becoming stranded. And I'll speak a little bit about what stranded means in a minute. Basically, by stranded, what I mean is that we would end up with a plant that is no longer used, but still being paid for by customers. And that could come about if those other projects had materialized and the growth in renewables and changes in the sector had also materialized at the pace being contemplated at that time. So we had to weigh up the risk in an uncertain environment and make decisions on the information that was available to us at the time. And so we chose not to risk or gamble with millions of dollars of customers' money. And I must point out that we didn't just do those things without consultation. And of course, we would have engaged with the regulator over that period as well, as the plans would have been evolving and changing.
So Roger, if I'm understanding correctly everything you've been saying, you just talked about a stranded plant and not being able to use certain plants because of the move that government is making in terms of renewables. But then recently you mentioned about this new plant in St. Lucie and savings on customers. So why are you speaking about going forward, but at the same time, this move about this new plant seems a backward step?
I think what you may be referring to is the fact that it's a fossil fuel plant. Is that? Yeah, okay. So that's correct. It is a fossil fuel plant, but as the name of the plant suggests, it's a bridge, and a bridge to clean energy as we move forward. So there are plans at the moment for higher penetration of firm renewables. These would be renewables that are firmed up by batteries, because at the moment, the renewables we have on the grid are intermittent, not firm. And so that means that I can't, as customers demand more electricity during the course of the day, I can't just turn up the sun or turn up the wind. So I do need a solution that allows me to respond to the different demands and changing demands throughout the day. Now, if the plans for firm renewables don't materialize as quickly as we would want to see them happen, we need to have some form of backup plan in place. So I did mention batteries would be part of the solution, but we also need some firm alternative, and that's where the Clean Energy Bridge comes in. It is able to back the system up and provide important resilient backup for the network when the intermittent renewables, which are mainly solar now, almost exclusively solar, when that is not available. For example, at night, it's an obvious one. but not so obvious would be, long days of overcast conditions or after a storm. We, of course, saw recently the volcanic ash incident that we would have had last year. And of course, the implications of that is that we had a significant reduction in what was available from solar energy for more or less a week, actually, as we were dealing with all of the ash fall and cleaning up things. And also, working on equipment that might have needed cleaning, like the cooling systems and radiators on the inverters for solar systems and so on. Those were things that we experienced that reinforced the need for having some form of backup. Either batteries, which we are working on at the moment as well, and proceeding to procure some batteries for that purpose. But there will be a need for a backup. And this plant, over time, yes, it will run less as renewables come on, but it will serve a very important role of backing up the system in the event that you have incidents that you saw last year and providing necessary resilience to the network, hence the term bridge.
Okay, wonderful. Roger, I think that clears up a lot for me in terms of what we were just speaking about. Adrian, back to you. We're going back to the rate application because we started there and we spoke about so much is going on with the Light and Power. So can you give me an update on the current status of that rate application?
Well, Shane, the formal process for the rate application has started. We have already had the public hearing on the matter of our interim rate request, and a decision on that matter is forthcoming. There are a number of interveners in this rate review process representing different interest groups. Now, these interveners have made a number of requests of Light and Power for information related to our application, and we have supplied them with the information they requested. But we expect that there will be additional questions and additional requests for information from these interveners before the oral hearing on the matter actually begins. And that oral hearing, or that face-to-face hearing of our application, is scheduled to begin on August the 25th. And we expect to be in hearing for just over 12 days. So we expect that matter hopefully will conclude by September the 9th. And the hearing will be conducted publicly, and the Light and Power will be given the opportunity to present to the Commission why a rate increases is warranted at this time and how it will impact the quality of our electricity service. So following the oral hearing, we expect a decision from the Fair Trading Commission soon after on our rate proposal.
Final word goes to you, Roger. The Light and Power embarked on its 100-100 vision some years ago. Is this strategy still being implemented, and what's the vision for the future of the company?
Yes, Shane, we are still fully committed to the 100-100 vision. And basically what that means is 100% renewable energy and 100% electrification of the economy. For example, transportation moving from fossil fuel to electricity over time. Of course, there are a number of enablers, I'd want to call them, required to achieve this vision. For example, we will need to see or have new licenses issued that align with the new energy policy. The regulatory framework and mechanisms that are in place need to be able to facilitate the fast turnaround of project approvals, because as you could imagine, with 2030 right around the corner, there's quite a lot to do. And so we will need to turn things around very quickly in relation to putting projects on the ground and in place. And that leads to things like timely planning permissions as well will be necessary. Of course, on our end, we continue as well to invest in the grid and design changes required to facilitate the change in infrastructure, the addition of distributed energy resources as opposed to the reliance on central power plants as we have historically. And then most importantly, ongoing stakeholder engagement to ensure that we work collectively and transparently with our customers, the government, renewable energy association, and players to meet all of the national policy goals.
Thank you so much, Roger. And thank you so much, lady and gentlemen. I think I have a much better understanding of the entire picture of where we currently sit with the Barbados Light and Power and the rate adjustment hearing and everything that's going on. Thank you so much.
If you've missed any of the Roundtable discussion, listen to the full Roundtable parts 1 and 2 on our website, www.blpc.com.bb. Search for What's New Radio Extra Time. And it is repeated on the Light and Power YouTube channel. I'm Jackie Marshall Clark, Manager Communications and Government Relations. Till next time, bye for now.
This program was produced for the Barbados Light and Power Company by SFA Communications.